The Sandman is an American fantasy drama television series based on the 1,989,199 comic book written by Neil Gaiman and published by DC Comics. The series was developed by Gaiman, David S. Goyer, and Alan Heinberg for the streaming service Netflix, and is produced by DC Entertainment and Warner Bros. Television. Like the comic, The Sandman tells the story of Dream, Morpheus, the titular Sandman. The series stars Tom Sturridge as the title character, with Boyd Holbrook, Vivian Akampong, and Patton Oswalt in supporting roles. Efforts to adapt The Sandman to film began in 1991 but floundered in development hell for many years. In 2013, Goyer pitched a film adaptation of the series to Warner Bros. Goyer and Gaiman were set to produce alongside Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who was planned to star and possibly direct. However, Gordon-Levitt exited over creative differences in 2016. Due to the prolonged development of the film, Warner Bros. Shifted its focus to television. Netflix signed a deal to produce the series in June 2019, and filming lasted from October 2020 to August 2021. The Sandman premiered on August 5, 2022, with an additional episode premiering on August 19. It received generally positive reviews from critics, with praise going towards the casting, production design, costumes, faithfulness to its source material, visual effects, and performances, particularly those of Sturridge and David Thewlis. Consider yourself successful if you are a world-renowned author whose book has been transformed into a highly viewed series. If you're Neil Gaiman and you have to deal with Netflix, its algorithms, and the high production costs of a VFX-heavy series, you should reconsider. The Sandman appears to have performed exceptionally well on Netflix since its launch, topping Netflix's top 10 ranking for more than 3 weeks and reclaiming the top spot when a bonus episode was added. It has more than 250 million hours of viewing time to date. But according to Neil Gaiman, the expectations are so great that it may not be enough to avoid cancellation and be renewed for a second season. There is no definitive method to determine if a series is popular enough for Netflix to extend it for a second season. And the Sandman author Neil Gaiman has reasonable expectations for the continuation of the remarkable comic book adaptation. He has been forthright with fans and journalists who inquire about the possibility of a second season, informing them that the series' destiny is in the hands of Netflix officials and that it is impossible to say whether the Sandman's success was sufficient to warrant a renewal. There are 12 series for every Stranger Things that Netflix squandered big sums on only to cancel after one season. Some had devoted fan bases, while others failed to meet Netflix's standards, but they all met the same fate: cancellation. All of them have enormous budgets, as Netflix takes risks and invests a great deal of money. The Sandman evidently cost a lot of money, which regrettably means that it will be much more difficult to be revived. The Sandman by Neil Gaiman is a legendary comic book series that is also extremely difficult to make. It's about a group of immortal creatures that rule their own hallucinogenic realms. The imagery is extravagantly inventive and expensive to render adequately. Fortunately, Netflix is well known for spending a lot of money on its productions. It was recently claimed that the 4th season of Stranger Things was made with an expenditure of an astounding $30 million for each episode. Previously, it was rumored that Netflix paid up to $15 million for each episode of The Sandman's first season. The production of the 11-episode series cost the streaming behemoth a cool $165 million. This enormous sum does not include marketing costs, so the final count will likely be even higher. The amount of money Netflix invested is undeniably an indication of trust in a potentially difficult-to-produce and sell show. Since the 1990s, there have been numerous attempts to adapt The Sandman for the big screen, but none have succeeded. People were concerned that they still do not have a release date or a full trailer for The Sandman, despite the fact that the streaming giant Netflix has already spent vast sums on the production. The executive producer of the series, Gaiman, refuted these claims by describing them as hilarious. Obviously, he was right, as The Sandman Season 1 has already been released. However, the issue is that Netflix lost more than 200,000 subscribers in the first 3 months of 2022 and anticipates losing an additional 2 million in the following quarter. Hence, it may be difficult for the streaming giant to produce another season of the series. The first season of the fan-favorite Netflix series necessitated the production of talking ravens, gargoyles, a great deal of magic, and gorgeous and unusual settings, such as Desire's Red Lair. Season the 2nd of May adapt the following 2 arcs from The Sandman, Dream Country and Season of Mist. The first 2 stories from Dream Country were featured in a bonus episode for the first season that was unexpectedly released, and they provide a perfect representation of the variety of stories in Dream Country. For Season of Mists, in which Morpheus descends back into hell to rescue his old lover, whom he sent there years ago, the series would need to develop not only strange characters and environments but also enlarge hell. It would be a great deal of fun to see. and it would give Gwendoline Christie plenty to do as Lucifer, who forsakes his position in the comics and wreaks havoc. But it is easy to see how much the budget would increase. Near the end of the first season, The Sandman appeared to have found its footing, so let's hope Netflix renews the series for a second season.